Well, hey, everybody, welcome to Ultimate Insider, Bear Insiders podcast. I am Mike Pawlawski, former Cal quarterback and radio color analyst. And this week we are talking about the Cal versus University of North Carolina game. I'll be talking to head coach Justin Wilcox coming up. But first, my breakdown of the game. And for those of you who listen to the podcast on a regular basis, this is going to sound a little bit like Charlie Brown's teacher up there, wah, 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 doing that because I'm going to be talking about a lot of the same things. This game versus North Carolina, start off with, it was a win. So Bears are 5-2. That's a great record for this point in the season. I know the whole team and the coaching staff believes that the two that they dropped, they should not have dropped too. So they feel they let a couple get away there. But that said, 5-2 is 5-2. They're one game away from being bowl eligible this week coming up. So that is a beautiful thing for the Bears. That said, just like they felt they shouldn't have dropped those two games, they don't feel like the last couple of games have been super clean. Not three games, really. Boston College was not a clean game. It was a great win on the road, but they could have played a lot cleaner and left that game with no doubts. Obviously, the Duke game, not great. Turn the ball over 4 times, you're going to get yourself in trouble, and it happened. And then you come to North Carolina after a bye week, and you need a win. And they get a win, but there were so many opportunities to make that outcome so much different. Start off with the Bears dropped a lot of passes in this game, 6 drop passes. And there have been drops over the course of the season so far, but not so many, not concentrated like that, and not from the guys who are usually so good at catching the rock. And so Jacob DeJesus had a couple, Mason Minnie had a couple, Tron had one on the back shoulder ball. Tron Grizel got cut off a little bit because they followed him around the field. They essentially what they call traveled with him. They brought a DB who went, left and right to mirror him, number 29 for North Carolina. They were going to try to take away that vertical passing game. So they're going to do it by manning Tron, and then they were going to play 2 high Tampa. So really it's a 3 deep wide coverage that you can take away a lot of the vertical routes. So that throw behind, which has been so effective for the Bears, they decided they were going to shut that down. So that was a big piece of it. But drop passes are huge because they're drive killers. And drive killers are hard to overcome because they're opportunities that you had, and now you've got to kick the ball away. And so anytime you're turning the ball over because of your own self-inflicted wounds, it's an issue. That said, penalties again as well. Pre-snap penalties, holding penalties, those kind of things. Pass interference penalties where you're giving up first downs. Once again, an opportunity to get the ball back. And instead you have a pass interference penalty and you get an automatic first down for North Carolina. And so those were problems as well. And so these little things, and it turns out, 5 to 8 plays in a game are always the difference. And so every one of those little things can be a huge difference. Last week, I talked to Coach Wilcox about the difference between intrinsic and extrinsic motivation and making the plays when you have to make the plays and being motivated to be dialed in and being focused in the moment. And Coach made a great point that you have to think of this play, the play that you're about to play, as the most important play of the game. And you have to do that every single snap after snap. And it takes some mental toughness, and it takes some intensity, and it actually takes a lot of training to get there. And so if you cannot do that as an athlete, then you're not doing yourself justice. You are not playing to your full potential. And if there's anything, at least athletes from my generation and before, I can tell you, that drives you crazy, it's not living up to your full potential, playing at less than an excellent standard, because we train so hard, athletes train so hard to be the best they can be. They spend hours in the weight room. They spend hours on the field. They spend hours in practice and film room and doing all that stuff so that when the moment comes, they can be at the pinnacle of their physical, psychological, cognitive performance, all on game day. And when you don't do that because you have mental letdowns, when you don't do that because you have cognitive letdowns or emotional letdowns, that's a killer. Because everybody prepares for that, and it only takes one guy. Football is the greatest sport in the world because it's a team sport. All 11 guys have to be on the same page every single snap to execute and play well. And so when you're not doing that, it's a big time letdown. Like I said, drop balls is a big one. Pre-snap penalties, a big one. The drive killers, big ones that you don't necessarily need in these games. There are sometimes penalties are justified. If You get beat on a deep ball and you know it's going to be a touchdown, getting a PI is one thing. But when you're in phase, when you're in good position and you decide to reach out and grab somebody for the pass interference, that doesn't help you. And you do it because you're scared of getting beat, because you're worried about the outcome of that play. Instead of playing the play and being fully immersed in that play and being in phase and getting your hand on the ball and knocking it down, instead of grabbing the guy when you're standing right there with him, that is a fear-based performance anxiety thing. And so it's been a recurring theme for the Bears this year. And they need to figure out a way to overcome those issues. The mental part of the game is so important. So many teams in college football, especially now with the free agency and NIL, so many teams have so much parity at that mid-level. Like they're so close. And people want to talk about a talent gap. There's really, everybody's really close, but the team who has the mental edge, the team who can execute what they're doing at full speed every single snap is the team who most likely ends up winning that game. And so the Bears have not been able to do that in sustained stretches. They've done it at times. They've come out and had great drives, great opening games versus Duke, 3 drives, 3 touchdowns on offense, good stops on defense, getting takeaways, but then not being able to sustain that over the course of 60 minutes. And that's what you need to do as a team. Sustain that over the course of 60 minutes. That said, but look at a couple stats from this game. Less than 300 yards of total offense. That's a mark. I mean, you should be able to hit that every week. You want to get at least 100 yards rushing. I would argue for 150, and then over 200 yards passing. JKS got 214 yards passing. He's actually, I think, the first or the only freshman in the country right now who is passed for over 200 yards in 7 games in a row. So he is having an impressive freshman season in spite of some of those things we talked about, right? Because 6 drop balls, that would add a lot more yardage in terms of what he did in that game, and that would make a difference in terms of the score overall as well because you continue drives. But so he was very good. 21 of 39 interceptions. He protected the football as a true freshman. That's awesome to see. 1 touchdown pass to Jacob DeJesus. And so JKS continues to play well. There's one play in particular, and I'm going to draw it up on Pause Plays of the Week, that I want you to see because he showed absolute steel in his spine. Just showed absolute courage as a quarterback. Standing back there, took a shot right in the face to deliver a ball on 3rd down for the first down. And so I love tough quarterbacks, and he definitely showed he was a tough quarterback on that play. Special teams, again, has to be better. The punt game has to be better. Michael Luckhurst came back. I love the fact that he's a heritage player. His dad, obviously, the great Mick Luckhurst, a Hall of Famer at Cal. Michael, they were looking for him to kick that ball into the end zone on kickoffs, and I don't think we got one into the end zone in this game. So first game back, hopefully he gears it up, dials it in for the next game, and figures out how to make it happen. But that needs to change too. You need to get that ball in the end zone so you can get the touchbacks and get that start on the 25, set the defense up, and then the punt game has to be better. We just have to kick the ball better because you have one job as a punter and a kicker, and you have to get that job done. Defensively, 2 huge takeaways on defense. Cam Sidney with the punch out early on, first play of the game for defense, and he gets that takeaway, sets up the offense, who goes right in and scores. Huge momentum shifter right off the bat. That was huge for the Bears. And then Paco Austin with the final play of the game on defense punches that ball out to seal the deal and get the ball back to the offense right as UNC was going into score. And that was going to be the go-ahead score. So fantastic awareness by both of those guys to get the punch out. Fantastic in the fact that Paco Austin did not quit on that play. So to get that ball out was impressive. It was a great job. And that is a big-time play and a big-time moment. So he fell back on his training, made it happen, and that was outstanding. A couple guys really did show up. Jacob DeJesus, 13 catches, 105 yards. Again, a couple drops could have been better because if he didn't drop those passes, would have been a whole lot better. But he was a big-time player in this game and received a whole lot of awards for it as a result. And then Jordan King actually showed up big time. He got a couple of huge 3rd down conversions, one on a dagger route, which is you clear up the seam and then you run a dig behind it. So he did a nice job there. And then he one on a 4-vert look that I will also be drawing up in Pause Plays of the Week. So you don't want to miss that coming up later on this week, probably tomorrow. So both those guys showed up big time. Both Cade Uluave, 10 tackles on defense, and Luke Ferrelli with 9 tackles on defense. They were making some plays in there. Defense could still be better. Run Fits gave up 130 some yards rushing, I think, 137 yards rushing on the night. So could have been better on the night, but overall it's still a win. And a win is a win, and it's good, and it helps the record, and it's one game closer to bowl eligibility. So that's my take on the game right now. Let's talk to head coach Justin Wilcox and listen to what he has to say. Joining me now, head coach Justin Wilcox. And coach, as always, great to celebrate a win, to get a great one versus, North Carolina. 5-2 now at this point in the season. I think is a great mark. Tell me your thoughts on that UNC game.
Yeah, we found a way to win. I mean, that's the number one thing. And that's a great quality to have as a team when it hasn't been pretty for us. We have a lot of opportunities to continue to improve. I'm expecting us to improve in the last half of the season here. So that's exciting. And to be able to find a way to win when it's not always pretty is great. But big things, the takeaways. First play of the game, Cam Sidney. The second to last play, Paco Austin with as good a play as you'll see. And that was really the difference defensively and for the team. And we protected the ball on offense. We didn't give it to them. We did not play great, but we didn't give it to them on offense. We converted a couple fourth downs, and we had a 4-minute drive at the end of the game. And so there's just still a lot of room for improvement, which is great, but we found a way to win.
Yeah, and that's always a great tale of the tape. You look at takeaways and turnovers as one of the key stats in football. 2 weeks prior versus Duke, you have 4, giveaways, and you lose that game and it looks ugly. This week you get 2, and you win that game when you have to. And so takeaways is such a huge stat in football that people miss sometimes. Talk about, at this point, like we said, 5-2, you guys are winning, but it doesn't feel great. You said you're winning ugly, you're finding a way. And oftentimes that's a good thing because you have a ton of ceiling left to get to. But sometimes, you have to be able to diagnose it and figure it out. I think you've diagnosed what's going on. How do you address that at this point of the season?
Yeah, we need to take what we're doing in practice and be able to apply it to the game better. And that's, it's not necessarily one thing for the entire team. I think position by position or player by player, there's things that we have to, kind of come to grips with. And, at a couple positions, it's everybody being on the same page a lot more often. O-line and DBs come to mind, and then there's, the receivers. We've had some great games where we caught everything. And then we had a game this past week where we had 6 balls on the ground that should have been caught. I think the defensively, it's unnecessary penalties, like it's a couple PIs that we just don't need. We're in position. We don't need to bail them out. The 15-yard unsportsmanlike we can't have. And then there's been, some coverage busts that have led to explosive plays that we need to remove those. And, if the other team beats you because they man-to-man, they just beat you, one will be it. But we need to remove some of those things where we're just kind of shooting ourselves in the foot so we can string drives together on offense, get more stops on defense. And then the other one that's really playing a factor we need to improve upon is our field position through special teams. The return game, and probably more so right now, the cover game, kickoff cover and punt cover, and that's the kickers and the punters as well.
Yeah, that's a huge piece of it. There's stuff like that where the physical skills, are a big piece. Got to kick it, got to punt it, got to do the things you need to do. And there's times when there's a bunch of mental skills that are involved in it too. I had the opportunity to go speak at Grid Club and hang out with Scott Fujita, which is always great. But, I kept hearing people saying, oh, talent this and talent that. And talent, there's so much parity across college football. Everybody's got their first rounders. Everybody's got their guys who are bit players. Everybody's got guys who are going to be great college players. But how much is talent? How much is really the mental game? Because a lot of the stuff that we're talking about here is mental game prep, how guys focus in the game.
We want to control as much as we possibly can, and in terms of the mental game and winning the game within the game, so that way you can maximize your talent. If you're able to do that, then the outcome is the outcome. And if you have a lot of talent and you sharpen your mental game, you're going to be really, really hard to beat.
Yeah, dominant.
If your talent is maybe not as good as the other team, but your mental game is really sharp, then maybe you'll beat somebody else that has more talent than you do. And then, there are times when there's just really, really talented players and they can get away with things from time to time. And if the guys around him can kind of make up for that, that's great. But if not, then you have some talented guys that are underperforming. And we don't ever want to underperform. We want to play at our potential or as close to our potential every time we go out there. The score of the game will be what it is, but I think that's our job as coaches and as a program, is to make sure that we're getting the most out of the guys that are on the team, and their job is to get the most out of themselves. And so that's really what we talk about. The scoreboard's a result of all that, but there's really nothing worse as a coach or a player than underperformance or underachievement.
Yeah, and that was always a piece for me as a player that I loved about the game was you're given what you're given, right? You're born with certain genetics. You can maximize those in the weight room and nutrition and those training habits. But then really the guys who can strictly refine their mental game are the guys who really perform the best. And I mean, you and I think, are great examples of that as players, right? We went out with the talent that we had and we played at our peak and mentally. And a lot of those guys go into coaching as a result because they love that mental side of the game. So a couple of guys in particular in this game I thought showed up really well. Jacob DeJesus, got to listen to him speak yesterday, caught a ton of balls. He became a feature guy in the offense yesterday or last game as a result of what North Carolina was doing. Now, he did have a couple drops too, but he became a feature guy. Talk about his performance and how much that helped.
Yeah, it's not surprising because Jacob is such a steady guy. Now, he did have a couple drops, which, boy, if he's as upset as anybody about that, but he's such a competitor. He goes one speed. I mean, he is 100% at everything he does all the time. We're the ones that have to slow him down in practice. And so it's not surprising. I mean, that's who he is. And so I thought the coaches did a great job of moving him around because he's not always in the slot. He's not always out at X or Z or right or left. Sometimes he caught a touchdown from out of the backfield. And so the coaches are doing a good job because we're trying to find every angle to try and get a positive play or an explosive. And Jacob's a guy that can do that. So trying to make it harder on the defense, which our coaches did. And he's able to do all that mentally and then physically. So really proud of him and love that he's on our team.
Yeah, one of the things that UNC did is they tended to mirror Tron with their best cover guy, in this game, and kind of they were trying to take away that back shoulder ball. It's been such a weapon for the offense over the last couple of weeks, and so somebody has to step up. Talk about that defensive scheme that they were using, and then what the thinking was in terms of calling plays.
Yeah, so they did. They played they traveled with Tron. They played a fair amount of split safety coverage. They wanted to take away some of the vertical shots. And that opened up some in breaks. Like Jordan King caught, I think, 3 big in breaks. Jacob had a big third down in break cut on it versus 2-man. There were some runs that hit. To be honest, there was a lot more to be had in the run game than we got. And there was also some perimeter game that hit. And then we left a lot out there in the perimeter game as well. So we made enough plays, but we're going to have to make more moving forward. When they're there, we got to make more. We got to kind of be at a higher batting average, so to speak, when the math is right. But they did a good job of taking Tron's vertical game away, back shoulder game. We had one on our sideline that Jaron made a great throw. Tron didn't quite come down with it, which he usually does, and then he drew a PI on one later. So it showed up a little bit, but not as much as it had.
Yeah, and you look at the stats for Jaron, 22 of 40, would have been 28. We talked about with the drop balls. A good day, a frustrating day you could see in his game out there. Felt probably like there was more in there that he couldn't get to. Talk about your young quarterback's performance.
Yeah, he's just going to get better and better. I mean, he's not perfect. He knows it. He's a very competitive guy. He wants to get better. I mean, I think that's, one of the things. We all assume that with college football players, they all want to get better, but they don't all want to get better with the same intensity. And that guy, he is intense and he is all about improving. He's very coachable. He threw some amazing, he threw one to hamper zero coverage, third down. Yeah. We were in empty. They brought the stacked A-gap backer and Bear ran right through the A-gap and Jaron knew he was going to get hit and the guy hit him and Jaron stood there. He put it, it was as perfect a ball as you could throw. And he had a bunch of those. He had one to Jordan King on an end cut that was a phenomenal throw. And so we got to do better around him, honestly. Like, we got to catch the ball better and we got to get that run game going better. And then he's going to continue to grow with every experience he has out there on game day.
Yeah, that's the truth. That's the exact play I was going to talk about because you want to talk about balls in the pocket, boys. That is when you got a Mike linebacker bearing down on you and he's about to hit you square in the mouth and you're hitting this to convert the first down. That was a huge play, and that showed a lot of toughness for him to be able to stick in there. That said, as a freshman quarterback, right, you kind of tend to adjust to the circumstances that you're facing, and he's feeling pressure, right? And so how do you keep him playing at game speed rather than trying to speed the game up as a young player? I know I went through that, not just in college, but I did that as a pro, where I played for a team that didn't protect great, and all of a sudden the game got faster and it seemed like things got really hectic. How do you keep him as a young quarterback to keep playing at game speed?
Yeah, run the ball, get some quick throws, less than 3 seconds, and then take our shots with better protection. And I think that'll help everybody. We're trying to do that. We can't, and when we do that, we're on schedule. It's getting behind schedule, as you know. It just when you're calling plays or you're a quarterback, that's when things get a little more difficult. And he made some great throws when we're behind the chains. We just don't want to have to rely on that so much. And
the 3rd and 15 daggers can't be a mainstay.
Live in that world. And so completions on early downs, catching the ball, getting the run game going, and then the vertical shots with some protection. And he's going to put the ball in a place where the receivers can catch. And if it's not there, there's a couple, even in this game, even one he threw away, he could throw it away quicker. Just, cut your losses, throw it out of bounds. And he doesn't need to take the unnecessary hits. Those are a couple things.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the offensive line, we talk about it kind of, week after week. That's my focus, obviously, as a quarterback. Those guys, if they don't set the tone for your team, then your team doesn't quite have a tone because the offensive line does that. How do they get better? How do they keep improving this week? What do they need to do?
Yeah, I think it's confidence and carrying over. I think the biggest thing for us as a team, and especially at O-line, but really everywhere, is taking what we do in practice and applying it to the game. And sometimes it's nerves and performance anxiety. Sometimes it's, trying to do too much. It's not one thing for the entire team. But what we got to do is, I know we talked to the guys about this, it's not about like rising to the occasion or putting your cape on game day. It's just, that phrase, I'm sure you've heard it, Mike, big time players make big time plays in big time games. Popular phrase. Well, the truth of it is big time players make the same plays in the games that they do in practice. Like that's what they do. And so I think that's where we got to, make some gains. It's just do what we do in practice and apply that to the game better, regardless of the circumstance. And that's toughness, mental toughness, emotional toughness. It's celebrating with your teammates after we get a sack on second down and not losing your mind. And all of a sudden now we got a 15-yard penalty. It's blocking the right guy. It's not seeing ghosts. We're not chasing ghosts. It's literally the front we talked about. This is where you go. And so I think it's that. It's applying what we do in practice to game and not, it's not about rising to the occasion. It's just doing what you do every day.
And that's such a powerful understanding as a player. If you can grasp that, it's that you never ever rise to the occasion. You always play at the level of your training. And so if you train to that level, then you can play at that level if you trust it. But you have to get that trust for it. And not calling anybody particular out, but you can see guys out there playing scared, like, oh, I'm going to get beat. No, just play your technique, right? It's like a run fit. You fit your run. That's what you're supposed to do. You don't make that play, but you make the play possible by fitting your run. You make the play possible by playing your assignment as an offensive lineman. So you can see that on film, and that next step, if they can get there mentally, is a huge piece of it. Talk about defense. Talk about your overall take on the game for defense.
The takeaways first, second, and third. That was it. We were better on third downs. I thought we tackled better. And we affected the quarterback better with 4-man rush. Really, it was unnecessary penalties and cover busts. That's what hurt us. We had a couple run fit issues, but if we got rid of the unnecessary penalties and the cover busts, I bet we played pretty darn good. Unfortunately, you don't get the do-over. And so a bit like the O-line, the secondary, I think just coverage-wise, we did some good things, but it's just the consistency there of being in the right call, make sure we're communicating, being very confident in playing our technique, just like we just talked about. But the number one thing was the takeaways. We were +3 in takeaways, counting the last play of the game, the fumble. But the first play of the game, elite play by Cam Sidney, results in a touchdown. And then Paco Austin, as I've mentioned, I don't know how many times, is as good as you'll see.
Yeah, first play of the game defensively, the last play of the game defensively, by knocking that out. Just that was the tail of the tape entirely. This week coming up, you got Virginia Tech. Big road trip, going back to their place, Blacksburg. A lot of hype around it, but a team who's struggling right now, but 2-5.
Yeah.
And what I'm going to say is, but you look at the film, And holy crap, this is a Virginia Tech team. Like they have dudes who can fly around and make plays. What is your take on Virginia Tech as you watch the film? I mean, they kind of have some of the issues that we talk about, right? Bad, mistaken turnovers, blown coverages, blown assignments, but they're a physically gifted team.
Yeah, I think they're a handful of plays away from being 5-2 or 6. I mean, I bet you look across college football right now, and there's a lot of that. Like the records aren't always indicative of the talent on the team, and we know we all get judged by records. We sign up for that, but when you turn the tape on and watch these guys, the running back, the quarterback is a phenomenal athlete, player, receivers, the defensive front, the front seven. Yeah, the record doesn't match what you see on the tape. So they have our full attention. I mean, they got athletes. These guys got dudes. I mean, there's no question about that.
And they have atmosphere, right? Blacksburg, you go in there, you play at VaTech, and they're not joking around back there. Their fans are for real. Even in a bad season like this, they're still packing the house. And so what does that mean for your team? What do you have to do? Especially as we've talked about maturity, consistency, all those things on the road, right? It can show up when the pressure's on. What do you do to focus up for this game?
I think it goes back to kind of what we were talking about. It's the mental approach, and it's not about letting those outside influences or circumstances dictate what you do on the next play. I mean, you're literally, staying focused on your mission on that play. What's my call? What's my alignment, my assignment, my technique? That's it. I think sometimes, like I said, some of the guys, whether they're younger or new to the program, and some of the the distractions might get to them a little bit. So we need to do a better job of that. For practice, of course, we're cranking up the music and we're trying to create as much environment as you can in a practice. There's nothing like the game, especially there. So we'll do the best we can there, know that it's coming. And really, it's the mental prep. Obviously, the physical work we have to get done. And then when it comes time to make the plays, that we're making the ones we make in practice.
Yeah, get rid of the what ifs and just worry about what's next. Like you take care of that and you're in good shape. Coach, appreciate it. Look forward to seeing you on the trip this week. Look forward to a big win on the road.
Thanks, Mike. Go Bears.
So that is Travers family head football coach, Justin Wilcox. And you can hear it in there too. The ability to play at your peak is so key for a young player, knowing that as a coach and you're trying to get the most out of them and trying to figure out how to make that happen. And each player is a different puzzle to unlock, but it's something, it's one of those things that makes coaching great when you can find that to help those players become their best. We can find a way to help them maximize their potential. That's really, in the end, I know everything's about winning and losing, but as a coach, the rewarding piece is when you can help a guy to become the best that he can possibly be. That is really, really special. That is what I love about coaching. That's what I love about the game, is that you can see that. And football is like life concentrated. Everything happens in an instant. Everything happens in quick succession. And so you can see a ton of growth right away, but you also means you have to be on your game for every instant and mentally dialed in. So anyway, that's the game within the game, the mental game I love. Coach talked about Virginia Tech coming up. They've got some dudes now, really good Kyron Drones quarterback who can run it. He can throw it. He is tough to bring down. He is physical, but he's streaky. So if he can push the ball downfield on you, if he gets into a rhythm, if you let him get into a rhythm, then you're going to be in trouble. They have a couple really good running backs transferred in. I'll tell you this about Virginia Tech. They are the best 2-5 team that I have seen on film. Physically, they look really, really good when you watch their film. Dudes just pop off that film. Defensively, they got a big front seven, big athletic group, but they're doing exactly what I was talking about with the Bears. They're making those mistakes, the drive killers, the penalties. They're -3 in the turnover takeaway ratio, only scoring 23 points per game, so that's not very good. They are rushing for 160 yards per game, so pretty impressive. 5 interceptions to just 11 touchdowns, 2.2 to 1. But they've given up 18 sacks too. So they have a young group of offensive linemen who don't look like they've really gelled yet. And so they're a work in progress as well. But at the skill spots and in that front seven, they look really good. They look athletic. So sometimes teams are snake bit, and it looks like they are snake bit. Remember, they've already fired their head coach with the 0-3 start going into the season. And so, they're on to their offensive coordinator as the head coach now, but they're trying to figure out a way to put it together. And so they're looking to take on the team from California this week back in Blacksburg, Virginia. I am looking forward to it. If you get a chance, look it up online. They do an entry onto the field to the song Enter Sandman by Metallica. And it's awesome. Light show, whole stadium, everybody's jumping up and down. That beat comes in with the riff, and it's just really, really cool. And so it's one of the cool things about being the AC that I am enjoying is getting to see all these new stadiums, all these new places, right? I really enjoyed going to Boston College this year, meeting new people back there, getting an opportunity to talk to their play-by-play guy was awesome. Get to see their traditions. And so I like those kind of things about college football because I think that college football has a ton of tradition, a ton of geographical and regional nuance that you get to see when you travel around the country to go see it. So I'm looking forward to this one. I'm looking forward to hopefully the Bears getting a win on the road. This is a game that they should and can win, but going on the road and getting a win on the road is always really, really tough. And so they're going to have to dial it in. They're going to have to get their mental game right and then maximize their potential in this game. That's it for me for this week. Looking forward to going on the road tomorrow with the team. But I will bring you a podcast of next week. Remember, you can always catch me and Justin Allegri and Ben Ross as our sideline reporter, or maybe Scott Butler. We'll see. On every game day, it'll be 4:30 Pacific time, 8:10 KSFO. They change the call letters so often that you kind of tend to forget about it. But 8:10 KSFO will be on at 4:30. Pregame will start at 3:30. And you can hear us talk about the game, set it up, give you all the nuance of Blacksburg that we can get you through the radio. And then don't forget this week, Pause Plays of the Week coming up. I'm going to drop a couple of good plays. You're going to see those. And for those of you that like to X's and O's and get in the weeds, I'm going to have that for you there. Till then, I appreciate you watching. For Bear Insider, I am Mike Pawlawski. As always, go Bears.